Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
You can tell a lot about where a company is going by looking at where it's been. ConocoPhillips, Alaska's oil and gas company.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder with the National Weather Service with you here on this Christmas Eve, December 24th. As always, we encourage you to stay up to date on your very latest weather forecast, observations, radar and satellite pictures, whatever else you'd like to take a look at from our website. You can always do that by going to arh.noaa.gov or weather.gov. Weather info lines open at 800-472-0391. Find us on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. In the mid-afternoon, of course, if you haven't seen it yet, head over to YouTube/NWS Anchorage, and you can get a shortened version of what you're about to see here. And then following the show later on in the evening, you'll get the entire show brought to you in part by Alaska Public, the station you're watching right now. Today's and tonight's hazardous weather outlook includes winter weather advisories around the Juneau area, especially north of Auk Bay. Areas there we'll be looking at maybe up to 7 inches of snow. That'll go through this evening. Farther north, though, a winter storm warning for the Haines and Skagway area. In the Chilkat Valley there, some areas could be seeing as much as 16 inches of snow. Around Haines and Skagway, you're probably talking about a little bit less, but once you get up the highway there, those amounts could climb rapidly, and that'll continue into tomorrow for some cases, and probably talking about snowfall rates that might reach upwards of 1 inch an hour, a lot like what you saw just the other day. No other watches and warnings anywhere around South Central or the Gulf Coast at this point. The focus is really on southeast. We do have some stronger winds blowing across the Beaufort Seacoast, so through tonight and early tomorrow morning, winter weather advisory for blowing snow. Visibility could drop to about a half mile there as gusts reach upwards of 45 miles per hour. That does include places like Prudhoe Bay and Deadhorse, all the way out toward Kaktovik and as far west as Kuparuk there. So again, keep an eye on what's going on across the eastern Beaufort Seacoast, as some of those winds will remain strong, probably into the coming days as well, not just tonight and tomorrow. As we go into the Bering Sea, you can see that wide area of low pressure spinning up out of the North Pacific. As it does so, it's pushing moisture up against the southwestern coast. High pressure, that continental flow is keeping things pretty dry right now, but the winds have come up across the Bering Sea, and we have some areas tonight out across the central and western parts of the Bering that are under storm warnings. We'll have some occasional winds moving through the Aleutians, but the real focus right now is the plume of moisture that you can see working right up into the Gulf and then working its way right into north and eastern parts of the Gulf Coast there. And so northern sections of southeast really under the influence of the storm and the moisture that's meeting up with it, and of course the cold air that's trying to work its way out of the Yukon, and all coming together as a pretty decent snowstorm for northern parts of the Panhandle tonight. Kodiak's been looking at some snow as well. Driving conditions, as we understand, around places like Dead Man's Curve. Probably not the greatest earlier today. Seeing some pictures there from the Kodiak Daily Mirror that were looking a little bit slick out there. So be extra careful if you're still driving around Kodiak tonight and, of course, tomorrow. Looks like the winter weather advisory has been dropped at this point. Snowfall may continue through the evening hours and maybe some snow showers tomorrow, but by and large, some of the heavier snows probably done at this point, so maybe some improving conditions there as we go through Christmas Day. Again, that milky color that you see across most of Alaska at this point, not really clouds. It's the satellite going, wow, there's some cold air there. I think I'll draw in some clouds, even though there aren't any clouds there. So most areas across the interior are relatively clear tonight as high pressure is moving air from east to west across the continent. Here's the storm moving through the north and eastern coast. On the back side of that's where we're getting the snow for Kodiak. On the front side of that is where we're getting the heavier snow for the northern parts of southeast and Yakutat. Into the central parts of the Panhandle, areas of rain and snow there, a little bit farther south and a little bit more rain. Low pressure also south of the Aleutians at 970 millibars, pushing enough Pacific moisture up over the Aleutians for some rain around the Pribilofs and also Dutch Harbor, areas of fog there. Frontal boundary dying out across the eastern parts of the Bering Sea, closer to the west coast of Alaska, may give us an opportunity for a few snow showers tonight. By and large, the precipitation's really going to hover around the Pacific side of things. A cold front dropping into the Arctic coast is going to be a very slow mover. The front is actually moving eastward across the Arctic Ocean, but it's trailing this boundary that's going to stretch out and kind of form and fall apart from time to time over the next 2 days or so. Watch as high pressure sits across the Yukon and actually moves northward to kind of counterbalance that surge of colder air dropping in. This is going to create those onshore winds, more of a west to easterly flow coming in, almost times running parallel to the coast. It'll probably blow and drift the snow around. It probably won't add a whole lot more snow, but it's a pretty decent boundary. There's a lot of cold air up here, and it's really trying to work its way southward, just having a lot of trouble doing so. So as high pressure sticks tight across the northern parts of the Yukon, that boundary stays there, and that keeps the winds up probably through Wednesday and probably through Thursday as well. So if you're across the Beaufort Seacoast working the oil fields there, you're probably not going to see a huge improvement, at least for the next couple days. A low pressure sitting across the north and eastern parts of the coast will keep the focus on some heavier snow across the northern parts of southeast. They're all the way out toward Yakutat, Haines, Skagway, the Klondike Highway, still looking at accumulating snow through Wednesday. Rainfall there across coastal sections where temperatures will be considerably milder. The higher terrain still looking at kind of a heavy wet snow. Spotty areas of rain, fog, and snow showers across the Bering. And still looking at some snow showers throughout the day on Kodiak. Most other places, including Anchorage, Wasilla, Matsus, Susitna, all the way up to Willow, Talkeetna, Denali, you pick your place. Most areas in the interior are going to be clear and dry, but cold, of course. Thursday's high temperatures in the interior really don't look terribly pleasant there. We'll see the temperature map here in just a minute. Notice that front hanging tight right across the north and eastern Gulf. Again, focusing some winds moving through the region. Probably have some stronger northerly flow coming through the Lynn Canal and the northern inner channels there for southeast on Thursday, and probably start to get a little bit of a wind picking up across the Cook Inlet and parts of south central, maybe even the Prince William Sound. Otherwise, a broad flow coming out of the Bering Strait and the Chukchi Sea, working its cold and dryness all the way down into the Bering Sea by Thursday. And here's another storm lurking out of the North Pacific at 964 millibars, still part of that very large gyre that we saw on the Bering Sea and North Pacific satellite picture moments ago. This afternoon, southeast looking at temps in the 30s and 40s. Looked like Sitka was one of the warmer spots, with Haines and Skagway considerably cooler. Teens, 20s, and 30s around Prince William Sound. Valdez only 10, 3 in Anchorage, 12 below in Wasilla, 5 in Talkeetna, Kenai only 3. As you get up over the mountains there, temperatures in the interior, in the Tanana and Yukon valleys, were in the 20s to 30s below. 26 below there in Fairbanks, Fort Yukon 33 below, Arctic Village 42 below, the coldest spot we could find in the state at 4 o'clock, 16 below in Barrow and Etkasuk. Looked like Kotzebue Sound anywhere from 15 to 30 below, 8 above in Nome today. Norton Sound temperatures around Unalakleet 4 below, Bethel was 1 above, McGrath 7 below, Galena and many parts of the Yukon Valley again anywhere from 25 to as cold as 35 below. Around Bristol Bay, temps were in the teens and 20s on the plus side, nearing 40 degrees along the Alaska Peninsula, 34 in Kodiak, upper 30s for the Pribilofs, and 45 in Atka this afternoon. Interior temperatures again bottoming out tonight around Fort Yukon, 42 below, Arctic Village 43 below, Southwest mainly in the single digits and teens tonight, Kodiak about 30 for you, so you'll go below freezing. Most areas in southeast at or just above the freezing point. Sitka a little bit milder at 39 degrees. Prince William Sound single digits and teens. The Arctic coast anywhere from 20 to 30 below. And the Aleutians probably hovering at or just above the freezing point with highs tomorrow in the lower 40s. Nunivak Island and St. Lawrence Island both at 16 tomorrow. Nome's expecting a Christmas Day high temperature of 10. The interior probably nearing 40 below in some parts of the eastern flats there around the Yukon Valley. And looking at temps in the single digits and teens for Christmas Day in South Central, 35 in Kodiak, and low to mid 40s for parts of Southeast. Flying weather tomorrow, and VFR conditions will prevail for most of Southeast. A wide swath of VFR across the interior and the west coast and the Seward Peninsula. Looks like IFR conditions should be expected across the eastern Beaufort Seacoast with blowing snow and a wide swath of IFR conditions and fog across the Pribilofs out toward the western Aleutians and parts of the Alaska Peninsula. Here's your pass conditions then. Anaktuvik Pass and Adigan Pass expected to be MVFR. We'll see VFR conditions all the way around the Alaska range, including rainy and windy pass, of course, and up toward Isabel Pass. Once you get over to Mentasta Pass, probably MVFR conditions there. Tanita Pass should be okay at VFR. Same goes for Portage Pass and Chilkoot and White Pass. We'll see gradual improvements as we go through the day. Freezing levels show that warmer air moving up through the Bering Sea will gradually stop as it reaches the St. Matthew Island waters, and there's some warm and wet air moving through the Gulf Coast, but by and large everything is sub-freezing as you would expect for late December across the interior of Alaska. Icing potential will generally focus south of Kodiak, but of course across the northern parts of southeast where we're seeing a vigorous snow event there taking shape. Below 9,000 feet and above 1,000 feet, you might run into some occasional moderate icing there. The jet stream is showing that cold flow coming right out of the Arctic Ocean and making a dive for southern Canada and northern parts of the lower 48. A ridge of high pressure is guiding that larger storm, just circling back on itself across the western Bering Sea. Occasional pieces of that will make it through, and that's what's reaching southeastern Alaska at this point. The main focus at 9,000 feet will be the north and northwesterly flow moving through the interior in the eastern Alaska range. It's the southwesterly flow that's keeping winds moving in from 30 to 50 knots across southeast. Those are wet, and across the central and western Aleutians, winds are a little bit slower, mainly from the south at 15 to 25 knots. You can see the influence of low pressure there, and also near Kodiak Island at 3,000 feet. The circulation is guiding in winds close to the Kenai Peninsula and then curving them back in under the influence of high pressure very near the Chukchi Seacoast in eastern Russia. And the northerly flow again predominant across the interior, with the southwesterlies a little bit slower at this level at 45 knots. Turbulence, well, mainly below 6,000 feet. There is a decent opportunity for that with a front very close to southeastern Alaska tomorrow, mainly below 6,000 feet, some of that reaching occasional moderate. Most of the interior looks like a smooth ride, and as we saw, relatively clear. Do watch out for some chop there across the eastern Beaufort Seacoast if visibility allows you to fly. That's a look at your aviation forecast. We'll be back with your marine weather here in just a few minutes.
Welcome everyone to Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Jim Peranto, and in the studio today I have Eric Stevens, a forecaster from the Fairbanks Forecast Office, and he's going to be talking to us today about lake effect snow showers and lake effect snow showers in Alaska. Welcome, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Jim. Thank you.
Glad to have you down here.
Glad to be here.
Well, I brought you into the studio today to talk about lake effect snow showers and a case study that you worked on. And I thought it was fascinating the first time I heard it. I thought we should share this with the viewers out there. Let's get a little background about lake effect snow showers, and for that matter, snow showers in general. What is a snow shower, and how is that different from, let's say, plain old snow?
Right, that's a great question. And you know, the snow showers are different from snow, just like in the summertime, rain showers are different from rain. Consider the Fairbanks perspective. I come from Fairbanks, and so I have that experience.
Right.
But in the summertime, typical interior Alaska day, say in June, where the sun comes up early, and there's a mostly clear sky, but by afternoon, puffy clouds developing probably over some hills, and then in the afternoon, or in the early evening, you get a sudden cloud burst, maybe even some lightning or some hail. Rains, it's showering very intensely, but then it ends relatively quickly, after 20 minutes, half an hour maybe, and then it's done and perhaps the sun will come out again. This is the nature of showery precipitation. It's highly variable in time. It can start and stop quickly. Also, you'd find if you're driving a car, say, that you could drive from a sunny area through an intense shower, back into sunshine, maybe through another shower, and then into sunshine again over the distance of just a few miles. That's the way showers are. They're spotty. They come and go, and they're spotty. Now consider that as opposed to, say, late August in the interior of Alaska.
Right.
You know, time for the Tanana Valley Fair, when you have gray skies from horizon to horizon, and it might rain lightly for several hours. May rain harder for an hour or two or three. It could rain all day. This is what we would call stratiform rain, the more flat sky, constant kind of rain. So there's we see the contrast.
Right.
Showers, spotty, they come and go. Rain, more constant. The same thing can happen with snow.
Okay.
We're used to having snow be a longer duration affair, but you can have snow showers that come and go. They'll develop quickly. You could even call it a snow squall maybe, where the visibility goes down maybe to near zero in heavy snow. And you'd think if this keeps up for long, we're going to be buried in a glacier before long. But then it might taper off pretty quickly, just like an afternoon thunder shower in June.
Now, that's a good description of snow showers. Now, if we start throwing the term lake effect in front of that, because we hear this a lot down in the lower 48, especially near the Great Lakes, lake effect snow showers. Now, what's that all about?
Right. The lake is critical for these snow showers down in the lower 48 around the Great Lakes. Basically, the lake provides two things that every shower needs, and that is a source of low-level warmth and a source of moisture. In the wintertime, Lake Superior is not exactly something you'd call warm. If it's 34 degrees or so on the lake water, no one wants to go swimming in that, but it's warmer than the air above it. And that's what's needed for a shower, too, is thermal instability, having warm air underneath colder air upstairs. And so then the atmosphere will tend to overturn. That's convective showers. The lake also provides the source of moisture. The moisture evaporates off of the lake and helps fuel those clouds. And it's that moisture which comes from the lake that turns into snow.
So essentially you need those two ingredients to have the lake effect snow shower. You need the moisture and then that cold air riding over the relatively milder temperatures of the lake.
That's right.
Okay, now these things are forming over lakes. Is it just affecting the people out on the lakes, you know, recreational boaters or mariners, or is it affecting also people downstream on the land?
Right, the lake is where things all get started, so it is a factor for mariners out there, people on the water. But if the wind pattern is right, a snow shower can develop over a lake and be pushed by the wind ashore somewhere. And if it happens to be a city, say like Buffalo, New York, they're famous for getting this, where snow showers will develop over the lake and then they'll be pushed ashore. The snow showers gather their strength from the lake, so they can't hold together for long once they move inland. But there is that time when they are mature over the lake, then they blow ashore, where they can be dumping a lot of snow before they peter out over the land.
This first image that we're going to show is pretty interesting. It pretty much shows how a snow shower develops. You want to just kind of explain that in brief to the viewers there, what we're looking at here?
Sure. This is an idealized sketch, a cross-section showing a body of comparatively warm water. Again, we're not talking about 80 degrees for the water necessarily, but simply warmer in contrast to the cold wintertime air above the water. And we can see some puffy cumulus clouds there developing. In that little cartoon, then snow falling out of them. And the arrow there represents the ambient or background wind pattern that can take some clouds that develop over the water because the air is over the water and then pushes it over the land. And that can lead to snow showers moving inland.
Okay. And the second image actually shows a satellite picture of some snow showers over Lake Superior, and I just thought this was an impressive image. Can you explain a little bit about what's going on there?
Oh, this is a very striking image. Yes, it shows Lake Superior there, also the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And what we've got today, when this picture was taken, was actually a very quiet weather day if it weren't for these Great Lakes. You can see a lot of the ground. This is a visible satellite image, and you can see that skies would be clear except for clouds which get going over the lakes. And the wind pattern, remember back from the last picture we saw, that arrow showing where the wind blows, that's important. The wind pattern in this picture is from the northwest blowing to the southeast. And we have lines of snow showers. Each individual snow shower is followed by another one right behind it, and the net effect is a long train of snow showers. We have several parallel bands of snow showers all moving from northwest to southeast. You can see on the far northwestern edge of Lake Superior, there's no snow showers there. It takes a snow shower a while to get going. The lake has to fuel the air, get it moist, get it moving before the snow shower develops. And then it moves downstream, and by the time it hits upper Michigan, it's dumping some snow. Another interesting thing about this, remember earlier I said showers are real spotty. If you were driving in a car, you could go from sunshine to snow to sunshine. You notice how these stripes of snow showers have some gaps in between them. And that's exactly what we're talking about. If you were driving from east to west along the UP there, you might encounter a heavy snow shower and then very good visibility only a couple miles later. That's the nature of snow showers.
Well, the people up in Marquette must be getting some snow showers in that image at that time. This image actually brings up some visual images of colder air riding over the Alaska Peninsula for me when I'm looking at satellite imagery, where you have the exact same thing happening. You have cold air riding over the Alaska Peninsula, and like you said, it takes a while for those snow showers to get developing, but you might be maybe 150 to 100 miles on the lee side of the Alaska Peninsula, and it's clear. And you get, beyond 100 miles, and you get these snow showers and these parallel banding, snow showers that just ride for hundreds of miles into the North Pacific. So this is just a striking image that has brought up a lot of past weather experiences for me. How much snow can people get out of, these lake effect snow showers?
Well, that's a very good question, because this can have a huge impact. Good snow showers caused by lake effect can produce snow in excess of 1 inch an hour. And the trick is, it can keep going for many hours. And that's where the issue lies, because if the snow showers are not moving around, you can have snow showers, a band of snow showers, blowing along a lake and then hitting a certain town, let's say, and it just keeps on going there again and again. You can get snowfalls into the several inches, even a foot or more over the course of a day or two is certainly a possibility. One thing that's very important, though, is the ambient wind direction. Because imagine holding a garden hose, let's say, and you're spraying water around. Imagine just moving your hands a little bit can yield quite a change in where the water goes in your garden. Similarly, a long band of snow showers can have a great variance in where it's impacting the land, just based on a couple of degrees of the compass change in wind direction. So that's a critical thing.
This radar picture that we're going to show next is pretty striking as well. And you're talking about lake effect snow. What are we looking at here?
This is the kind of scenario where Buffalo, New York can find itself buried. What we're looking at here is westerly winds. This is actually a radar picture. It's not a satellite image, but returns from a weather radar showing a single dominant snow band along Lake Erie moving from west to east. And notice how on the eastern shore of the lake there, if you were to go north or south of the snow band, you'd be in clear skies. But if you get under the main core of that snow shower, you probably have a quarter-mile visibility in heavy snow. And Buffalo, I believe it was last winter, racked up some fantastic totals because this kind of pattern set up and it just wouldn't go away for a few days.
I remember that well. We're going to cut you off here. We'll come back for part 2.
Part 2.
And we'll talk about lake effect snow showers in Alaska.
That sounds great, Jim.
And come back and join us for part 2, everyone.
All right, Merry Christmas, Jim and Eric. Here's a look at southeast, and you'll notice a southerly flow feeding into low pressure in the wave that's sitting mainly to kind of the east and west right here across northern parts of southeast tomorrow. 20 to 25 knot winds in the inner channels and 25 to 30 knot winds across the coastal areas. Between 12 and 15 foot seas are expected on the outside, 4 to 5 foot seas on the inside. As we get into Thursday, that southerly wind continues. It drops off a little bit along the coast, still looking at 9 to 11 foot seas coming in from the south and west, and the southeasterly flow for the southern 2/3 or so of the inner channels with 4 foot seas there, 20 knot winds, and a southerly flow in the Lynn Canal with a 3 foot sea and 15 knot winds are coming in from the south. There may be a little bit of a shift as we head into tonight and tomorrow. The winds kind of becoming northerly for a time and then going back southerly as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. Across south central, you'll notice the northerly influence across most of the areas there. A northeasterly flow coming out of Prince William Sound and also across the northern coast between 15 and 20 knots. Northerly winds are a little bit stronger coming off the Kenai. 25 knot winds there, 11 to 12 foot seas. Northeasterlies on the parallel on either side of Kodiak Island, 20 to 25 knot winds, and freezing spray is an issue there around the Cook Inlet there. West of the Barren Islands, it's 25 knot winds with a 5 foot sea. Outside, that's more of an 11 foot sea. 10 to 20 knot winds also coming out of the northern parts of the Cook Inlet. Winds diminish a little bit in the Cook Inlet on Thursday. 10 to 15 knot winds are expected. Winds become variable around the Shelikof Strait region. Northwesterly flow on the eastern side of Kodiak Island. And now winds are moving more of a westerly direction out of the Cook Inlet and the Barren Islands region into the western Gulf at 20 knots with 7 to 9 foot seas. And northerlies continue out of Prince William Sound and also on the northern coast around 10 to 15 knots with a 2 foot sea on the inside of Prince William Sound. Across the Alaska Peninsula, a northeasterly flow out of Bristol Bay at 20 knots with a 5 foot sea. Easterlies coming into the Alaska Peninsula on the Pacific side. 9 to 14 foot seas are expected there. And southeasterly winds north of the Alaska Peninsula into the Bering Sea, mainly north of Cold Bay. That's a 6-foot sea, with some higher gusts, though, expected to continue through Christmas Day. Thursday, northeasterlies out of Bristol Bay, 25 knots there with a 6-foot sea. Notice the south and southwesterly flow developing out of the Pacific with a 15-knot wind, and 10 to 13-foot seas are expected on Thursday. Across the Aleutians now, a south and westerly flow coming across the Pacific side, 15 to 25 knots there. More of a westerly flow around Kiska up to Adak and Aka on the Bering Sea side at 25 knots or so. Look for seas to run up to 8 to 12 feet. And a south and easterly flow from Nikolsky to Unalaska. That's running about 8 to 9 foot seas with that wind. And southwesterlies around 20 knots. They're way out around Attu and Shemya with a 12-foot sea. That reverses course as we head into Thursday. A northeasterly flow there behind the next wave of low pressure that's moving right across the central Aleutians. An easterly flow bringing 30 to 35 knot winds across the core of the Aleutians there, and a southeasterly wind out ahead of it, 25 to 30 knots with a 13-foot sea south of the eastern parts of the chain. And we're looking at winds that are seas are about the same there all the way across the span of the islands there as we head through Thursday. Across the west coast, a northeasterly flow coming off the continent, anywhere from 20 to 40 knot winds, the strongest of which up across the St. Lawrence and St. Matthew Island waters. Looking at 12 to 17-foot seas there. Easterly flow across the Pribilofs with a 30-knot wind and freezing spray south of the ice edge. And 25 to 30 knot winds are expected. 5 to 8-foot seas on the southern half of the Bering, and 10 to 13-foot seas there on the northern parts of the Bering Sea. Across the Arctic coast, look for a northerly flow coming out of the Chukchi Sea, heading for the Bering Strait at 15 to 20 knots. A north and westerly flow will pick up as it moves through the eastern Beaufort Seacoast. And don't forget about that the winter weather advisory for blowing snow, that it goes all the way from Kaktovik and the border back toward Prudhoe Bay and Dead Horse. As we get into Thursday, the wind direction pretty much stays the same. It may diminish somewhat here, but the area along the eastern Beaufort Seacoast will remain rather blustery as we go through the rest of the week, thanks to the position of a cold front that is kind of squeezing the wind right here across the eastern parts of the coastline itself. Recapping tonight's weather as Santa is making his trip around the world and ending up in Alaska last, of course. It looks like the frontal boundary will drop southward just a little bit more across the Arctic coast. Again, making more of a breezy conditions there, and sometimes some gusts upwards of 45 miles per hour, reducing visibility to 1/2 mile or so. That'll continue through tomorrow. Heavy snow is expected across northern parts of southeast with winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories from Juneau and northward. The heaviest snow north of Auk Bay, and the heaviest of which will likely be around the Klondike Highway in Haines and Skagway. And for Christmas Day, more rain and snow for southeast, and snow diminishes in Kodiak. Enjoy your evening and Merry Christmas.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.